You don't have to die to decide to live. So when people hear that I have had not just one heart attack, but two, I get the same reaction and response from everybody. They literally look like a cartoon character. Their eyes get real big, their jaw drops to the ground, and they're just like, how on earth is it that somebody who is in as great of shape as you are and is as young as you are, how on earth have you had two heart attacks? Is it genetics or what is it? And the truth about it is, I suffered majorly from addiction. I had a massive addiction that pretty much nobody knew about. And I just want to take a moment to say, anybody in the audience right now, anybody that is watching live streamed, and anybody who will see this speech later on, if you are going through an addiction, let this be the story that lifts you out of that and has you understand that there are people out there that are beating addiction and your life is worth it and you can do it too. And so what's interesting about my addiction is that I would go to the doctor every year, and I would get my blood work done every single year, multiple times a year. And all the results would always come back perfect. It got to a point where I would literally question them. Like, are you sure you have the right person's results? Because when I tell you, again, I had a pretty severe addiction. We were going 5 days a week, 6 days a week, sometimes even 7 days a week and not sleeping. I was like, well, maybe I'm Superman because I'm over here doing a lot of things, putting a lot of things into my body that I should not be. And I guess I can just keep doing it and everything will be great. But the thing about this is that all of the choices and decisions that we make in our lives, they all have a result. And now sometimes the result, it's instant, right? Sometimes the result from the choice is immediate. But sometimes it takes weeks, months, and sometimes, for myself, it takes years for the results from your choices to kick in. And so I'm going to ask you all now, what choices are you all making on a day-to-day basis? And is it aligned with where you want to be and where you want to go in life? So as I said, I've suffered 2 heart attacks and it was from addiction. And the first heart attack, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on. It was a very mild heart attack. When it happened at the time, I didn't even know it was a heart attack. And then after some events that took place, I decided to have some testing done. Sure enough, found out that I had a heart attack, and I had a stent put in. And that stent I got was April 3rd, 2020. So fast forward, I'm going to take you on a walk down memory lane on heart attack number 2, which was a pivotal moment in my life. It was Easter Sunday of all days, April 4th, 2021. It was a beautiful day outside, and a buddy of mine had hit me up. Him and another friend, they were going to work out, and they invited me to come work out with them. So I went, we worked out, had a great workout, and afterwards, they wanted to go play basketball. Now, I grew up playing basketball, and we were only supposed to shoot around. I was in a little bit of a bulking phase, right? So I was heavier than normal, a little bit over 240 pounds, and I was not in shape to play basketball, and I had low-top shoes on, and I'm prone to rolling my ankles. So, again, we were just supposed to shoot around, and so I was good with it. I was like, cool, let's go. Now, there's these guys downstairs. There's 3 of them, 3 of us. So obviously, as you can see, what took place after that was they challenged us to a 3-on-3, and we went ahead and played. Now, the entire time, I was huffing and puffing. I was struggling, but I'm not thinking anything of it, really. I'm just thinking it's because I'm out of shape, right? That would make sense. And so after we get done playing, we go to the bleachers, we're hanging out about 10, 15 minutes, and we're just talking about life and business. And by this time, my heart rate, my breathing, everything should be coming back to normal. But I noticed it hadn't come back to normal, and I didn't think too much of it in that moment. So then I walk out to the car, I get outside, I start walking to the car, and I start experiencing some symptoms. And these symptoms were as follows. I started getting a really bad headache. I started having some pains in my chest. I was still having trouble breathing, and my arm on my left side is going numb. And that was a little bit alarming, and of course I'm paying attention to it. So get in the car and start driving, and headed home. And I have a pinched nerve in my neck from my bodybuilding days, and all the symptoms are progressively getting worse and worse. So as I'm driving, I'm like trying to move my neck over because maybe I'm causing the pinching. But things are just, man, they're all getting just worse and worse. My breathing is not there. The pain is just, it's not good. So I looked at the person that I was with in the car. I said, something is not right. I want to go to an urgent care. And she said, let's go. So I get my phone out and I look up, get on my Apple Maps. I find an urgent care that was 5 minutes away. And as I said, it was Easter Sunday. And if you know anything about Austin, Texas, which is where I was living at the time, they have really bad traffic. And time is of the essence in this moment. And so I get to the urgent care in 5 minutes. And I get inside, and they're like, sir, how can we help you? I said, man, I'm pretty sure I'm having a heart attack. And he said, can I see some ID? Exactly. In my mind, I'm like, did you just hear what I said? Like, bro, I am having a heart attack. Get me to the back. So I go to get my wallet out to give him my ID. I left it in the car, right? So I'm running back. I get my wallet. I come back, give him my ID. Now, he did at least have the decency to let the paperwork be filled out a little bit later on. So they rushed me to the back. They hooked me up to the EKG, and I'll never forget the look on the doctor's face when he read what was on the EKG, man. He looked at me. He said, sir, I'm sorry to tell you this, but you are suffering a severe heart attack right now. And in my mind, I had already had a heart attack. And I'm not saying this is what doctors do. This is just what I was telling myself because the mind is so powerful. I'm like, doctors exaggerate. I've already had a heart attack. I'll be out of here in 45 to 50, 60 minutes or so. And what's funny is I actually was, just not how I envisioned it. And so, yeah. So they get me to the back, you know, they do the EKG. So now they lay me on the bed and they start giving me all these different things to chew and to swallow. And if you're ever in this situation, which I pray that you're never in this situation, but I text my mom, I get my phone, I text my mom, I said, Mom, I'm having a massive heart attack right now, and I put my phone down. Sorry, Mom. My mom is in the audience. I love you, Mom. My grandma's here. I love you, Grandma, right? But it's, yeah, thank you. But don't do that. Like, I was thinking, like, what she must have been thinking. Like, no, just don't do that. Okay. And so they're giving me all these different things to chew and to swallow, and I'm communicating with the nurses about how I'm feeling, like, okay, the pain is going away. Okay, the pain is coming back. Okay, I'm having a hard time breathing. Okay, my breathing is good. And then it got to a point where everything just started to fade out. And I literally felt myself as if I was about to die. And I was like, y'all got to do something. I feel like I'm about to die. Please do something. God, please help me. And that is when I faded out. And I died on that table that day on Easter, had a massive heart attack, and I was out for a good amount of time. And out of nowhere, well, obviously I didn't know it was at the time because I was dead on the table, but I'm just sitting there and I hear, Jason. And I'm thinking, like, please let me be in heaven. Like, I don't know what's happening right now. So I open my eyes, I turn to the right, and the doctor was like, welcome back, sir. She just saved your life. And when you die and come back, like, you're very out of it. And so I'm kind of like dumbfounded, like, huh, what? Like, you just saved my life. So I look over at her, and she's like, yes, sir. And I'm like, thank you? Like, what else do you say, right? But no, I thanked her, and it was a beautiful moment. They lifted me up. They put me on to, that was a beautiful moment that I lived, right? So they lifted me up. They had a squad of paramedics there. They put me on the stretcher. They rushed me to the hospital because I was at an ER clinic, right? So they rushed me to the hospital where I spent 3 days in ICU. And people always say like, oh my gosh, man, you've had 2 heart attacks and you died on one. This is horrible, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just so about my thoughts and controlling my thoughts and controlling my controllables. And one of my favorite quotes is, the sun begins to rise at the darkest part of the night. You see, the darkest moment of my life was the biggest blessing to my life. Like I said, this was a pivotal moment. This changed my life forever because I haven't been on that addiction for coming up on 2.5 years. Thank you. Yeah. But y'all literally changed my life. And I had a lot of time to think when I was in ICU. A lot of time to think because I spent some time by myself, and April 4th coming up will be 3 years, so there's been a lot of time within those years to be thinking and processing, and I think about it every day, and new lessons just keep popping up. And so when I was getting this speech going, I was like, man, death gave me a PhD on life, right? These are my 3 biggest lessons from dying that day. The first is purpose. Y'all, so something I didn't say about my heart attack, and I did it intentionally, is that I had 100% blockage in my widowmaker. And if you know anything about that, they call it the widowmaker because if somebody has a heart attack there, somebody's about to be a widow. So it's crazy that this is what caused me to understand the level of purpose that God has for me on this earth, right? It was because of this that I finally started to step into my greatness and change things that I was doing on a day-to-day basis. And so many of us, right, of you all here, people listening, people that will listen in time to come, you have so many ideas and things that you want to do, but you're holding yourself back, whatever that reason is, whether it be fear of failure, whether it be fear of success, whatever that looks like for you. And I encourage you to step into your purpose because I found that my biggest purpose is to lift people up. Whatever they're going through, to help them understand that they're worth it, they matter. And that is the next letter, right? That is the next part, is what brings me the most happiness when I'm living in my purpose. So that's the H, is happiness. And I always centered happiness around stuff and things and accomplishments and items. So I'll never forget getting back to my place. I had a pretty nice place in downtown Austin, really high up. I loved it. I'll never forget getting into my closet and just looking at all of this stuff and thinking like, man, this stuff almost didn't even matter. And and we hear about it, but when you truly experience it, it kind of puts things in a little bit of a different perspective. Because I've hit many goals. But if you place your happiness on hitting goals, well, it's always about the next goal. It's like, I hit this goal, now I'm ready to hit that goal. And so if you place your happiness on a goal, then you'll never truly be happy because this is an external state. It's about the next thing. If it's like, yo, when I get that car, I'll be happy. Well, you get that car, and after 90 days, you're looking at the next car. And so you'll never truly experience happiness. And so I got to a place where I'm like, man, this is a choice. It is truly internal. And I've had some battles with people on social media about this because I'll make a post and I'll say, happiness is a choice. And people, they'll start commenting, oh, Jason, you don't understand. You don't understand what I've been through. I said, let me tell you something. I might not know exactly what you're going through, but I've been through some things myself. Each and every one of us is going through things or growing through things. But let me tell you something. A lot of people didn't get to wake up today, and you got to wake up today, right? You have opportunity and possibility within self if you make good choices. And you can get out there and make things happen. Not everybody has that opportunity. And so the next part is D, is discipline. Everything comes down to the discipline, right? And motivation and inspiration, they don't last. Discipline says no matter what, I am going to execute. No matter what, it doesn't matter if it's raining outside, if it's snowing outside, if I don't feel good, right? No matter what, I am disciplined. This is where I want to go in my life. These are the things that I want to do, and I'm going to go, and I'm going to go out, and I'm going to make it happen. And I was thinking about discipline, and I was so disciplined in the wrong things that I literally died. Like, I was so good at doing the wrong stuff that I got like the trophy of the bad. So then I'm like, okay, well, let's look at the flip side. What happens if I apply that level of intensity, that level of discipline? What happens when I do that, but to the flip side? Into the positive things, into the good things, into the daily disciplines that will get me to where I truly want to be in life. And so I'm going to ask you all, what do your daily disciplines look like? Are you where you want to be in life? Because if you're not, best look at your daily disciplines and how you're operating day to day, and then just change them a little bit. Minor tweaks in your days will make the biggest difference. A house is built one brick at a time. And so this here is the nurse that saved my life, Debbie. Something else I didn't tell you all, which is very interesting to me about how everything just seemed to work out. If you go to an urgent care when you're having a heart attack, if it's not an emergency urgent care, they either call paramedics to come get you, or they send you to the ER or to an emergency room urgent care. They cannot treat you at a regular urgent care. And for whatever reason, the one that I chose that day was an ER urgent care. Now, they told me had I gotten there within 60-second difference, I wouldn't have made it. And Debbie normally doesn't work at that ER clinic. Normally, Debbie worked at the hospital, at the ER department, specializing in heart attacks. It's just so crazy how everything came together. And see, she was living in her purpose. And again, I talked about purpose, and I invite each and every single one of you to truly tap into the purpose and what brings you the most happiness, and make sure that you have the discipline along the way to keep going, even when times get tough. And remember, you don't have to die to decide to live. Thank you.